I don't know, 5 times. So 5, 10, and we're going to populate this all the way down. Nope, not what I intended to do. Control Z, and then get that and drag it down. Can go all the way to 12. Okay, so let's apply a few things we've learned and then move this also, all of this up. Come on. I said I can't see properly, doesn't mean I can't move things. All right, and again on this left-hand side in the A, I want to just use count from 1 to with increment of 1 onwards. Oh dear. So, especially getting to the end of last week, or in terms of the sessions we covered last week, we were looking at playing with formulas a lot, yeah. And then the formulas are one of the powerful features that Excel offers us anyway. And like we have mentioned that people use it for even more complex calculations. So let's say we want to write an equation that makes use of the cells under A in terms of column A and the cells under column B. So if, first of all, let's say I want to multiply A1 by B1. So equation is going to start with the equal sign, and I'll have A1, and then I'll multiply that by B1. And we have mentioned that if I do Control C, just Control C and Control V in the next cell, for example, it copies the equation across. Does that make sense? What it has done for me right now is to create a relationship between the cells under A and the cells under B column. So if I copy it across, it copies the equation, but it updates the equation to the next cell. Does that make sense so far? Yeah? This is just basically, we're just using relative, it's just relationship. It's not really absolute. Nothing is really fixed in there. Yeah? So if, let's say, a couple of, I think 2 weeks ago, we said, if we want to keep the values instead of the formula, then we can either right click or we can do paste special from up there or paste special from here and then paste the values only. So if I paste the values, then it has retained only the values. That makes sense so far?
No, sir.
Which part doesn't make sense? You mean how I got the values or not? So to get the values after you do Control C here, or after you do the copy, you want to go to the new cell, you want to paste it in, and you want to paste special and then select values. We're working towards that. Yeah, and several people have asked different questions, so I'm answering all of them in one go. So that gives you the values. Now, here we are interested in, let's say we say, please ask. We just did that right before that. It pastes the formulas instead. So I can just show you. If I copy, that is what I'm about to do right now. So if I do that here, you notice that it's pasting the equation, it's pasting the formula, that it didn't paste the value. Yeah. So, I mean, I can copy this across all the way to the end, and it's just going to paste the formula all the way to the end for us. So if I go to the last one, it's updated the formula to the next cell, next cell, next cell, next cell. Yeah. So that makes sense so far. And you asked that question. Okay. So let's say we want to retain, we want to create a formula, but we want to retain the value of whichever value is in A6 throughout, right? So I say create, update this cell. It's just a question we can make up right now. So update this range of cells, which is E1 column E13. Update all of it using the value in, and you want the value because this value can change to 8 and it can change to anything during the lifetime of this cell. The value in A6 and each of the values in or corresponding values in B, column B as well. So in this particular case, we want to fix the formula to only look at A6. So to do that, I say, and the dollar says, I want to fix something, right? I just want the absolute value. I want absolute of the column, which is A. Well, the dollar A means I don't want to change that column. I want to fix on that column. Then I also want to fix on that cell as well. So the row value of that cell is 6. So I have A6 selected. So right now, if I just drag it down all the way down, it's just going to keep the value in A6 for me. So later, if I go to A6 and I change it to 100, for example, I expect that cell to also update to 100. Difference between the relative and the absolute. The relative, when I dragged it down, it changed the cells. It didn't keep the same cell. The absolute, when I drag it down, it kept exactly the same cell throughout. Sorry, I just typed the 100 now. So if I change it back to 6, that column changes to 6. If I change it to anything, well, it's not a number value. I have to change that here. That works because I have formula making use of it. I messed it up, isn't it? Oh, playing with different cells. Sorry, forgive me. Problem of eyesight today. A6 and this, that works pretty much. Yeah. We'll reflect that simply because the current equation that we have is simply saying, I want this cell to be equal to A6. Now, whether you copy and paste the formula or not, I just want that cell to be exactly the same. Yeah. And the task was to multiply it by, so if I take the first cell, I want to multiply it by the corresponding cell in B, which would be B1. If I take the next one, I want, like if I jump to row 6, I want it to be A6 times B6. If I go all the way to 13, still want it to be A6 times B13. So to do that, it means I don't need to fix my equation on B13. I can go from B1 all the way to 13. So to do that, I'll just go to B and then 1 without the dollar sign. So the question says, we just made this question up, right? Take A6 multiplied by B1. Take A6 multiplied by B2 and then put the answer on E2. So whatever E number that follows it, if it's E13, you want to take A6 and multiply by E13. Does that one make sense? Yeah. So knowing what we know about formulas in Excel, we know that we can fix the equation on A6. And if we use relative for the B, we can automatically update it to the next one. So if I do this and I drag it down, just as we did before, we expect A6 to remain its position in all the equations, but the B will update downwards. So if I go here, it's A6 times B2. If I go all the way to the bottom, it will still be A6 times B13. Does it make more sense now?
The column E is it absolute, right?
It's not about.
The adding. No, just the adding of the dollar.
The reference. We are using two different referencing, right? The reference to A6 is absolute because that doesn't change. So you change the 6 to 5 here. Why is it not like? Right. And it just moved to 5, and it's pretty much the same thing. But afterwards, I want to update. Yeah. And the key point, I mean, people ask, why would you do this? But it depends on the application you are working on. And as your data gets really large, sometimes you will find a need for this. Because if I'm going to change this right now, then it gets auto updated on that side. But in here, you notice that it's only got updated in this cell. Yeah, because the equation for this cell is different.